Welcome to A Women's Brew, where women talk about beer. It's International Women's Day. In honour of all our fellow beer-loving women out there, we're celebrating women who are brewers, breweries, and the female-identifying drinkers who support them. I'm Joanne, and this is Tori.
Hey, hey, hey.
And we're two beer-loving women on a mission to get more people drinking and talking about great beer. Come join us.
This week, we thought we would do something different because this episode happens to drop for the wider audience on International Women's Day. So that's exciting. I think we had this idea that we wanted to talk to some other women. So you're going to notice that this episode's kind of chopped up into two different bits. The end bit will be our chat with the other female identifying women in the craft beer scene. We just thought it'd be quite good to do that. But before we get into all that, we thought we'd do a bit of a tasting, a bit of another discussion. So yeah, but I think it's worth noting in advance. So Joe, feel free to jump in if you want to add anything here. But I think we just want to highlight that when we had these discussions with all these other amazing women, that it was a safe, open space for us to all have an open and honest dialogue about what it feels like from our point of view and the experiences that we've had from our point of view as women in the craft beer scene. We just want to make it very clear that there's no intention to, shame men, put men down or anybody else. We don't want to tar everybody with the same brush. It might sound like maybe that's what we're doing at certain points, but it's just in the context of the conversation. That's sort of why things are said in the way they're said. We've got so many good male allies, and that was not at all what we were getting across. What we wanted to do with this is we really wanted to get the voices of other women out there to share their experiences, to draw attention to the pros and the cons of what females in the craft scene experience. So it was very real. It was very raw, honest. So we appreciate everyone's vulnerability and them being so honest with us. And we're excited to share it with you guys. So yeah, I just wanted to preface it with all that because I didn't want it to be taken in a way that we didn't mean it. So anything you want to add to that, Joe?
I just think so. I think we talked about with the other women, like these were actual anecdotal events that happened to each of us, good or bad, and how we feel about what has happened to us, and the good and the bad of that. And it's, there are going to be people that go, oh, I've never seen that. That's fine. That means that you've got an amazing beer scene where you are. I want to come to where you are, because some of us have had experiences that are not so pleasant. But it's all a learning experience for everybody, I think.
Yeah, and I think we kept the tone of it. I mean, we didn't really even get into some of the uglier sides of things of what people can experience. There were negatives, but it was like negatives of like, I get asked if I want a half pint versus a full pint when I go to a pub. It wasn't anything that had to do with some of the other realities that some women face, which is like more dark, more sinister aspects of that. We stayed away from that, and it was very much some negatives, but there were some positives.
It was also the the
lighter side of things. But yeah, you're right, it is all based on our first-hand experience, and I mean, as you said, we just wanted to where you will have people that say, I've never seen that happen, I've never witnessed that. I think what we wanted to do was really draw attention to the fact that yes, you're right, not everybody is experiencing it, so we wanted to share it in an attempt to sort of give some people who maybe haven't experienced it an understanding of the background that some other people might be having. So very, very valid to point out, I think.
Yeah. All right. So before we get to that.
Yeah, that will come towards the end.
Yes. Are we cracking the beer? Magic. Should we crack a beer?
Yeah. So we decided that we were going to do the quick tasting of Mothership American Pale Ale, as Mothership is a completely female-owned and operated brewery.
T-shirt on as well. I love a bit of Mothership.
Yeah, they do a lot to champion sort of women in the craft beer scene. So
beer for all.
Beer for all, yeah, yes. For sure. This is a nice unfiltered one, so I like a good unfiltered beer.
Yeah, I've not had this one yet.
I haven't either. Used to see them a lot more, and I think you don't really see them as much anymore. But I think that's because their production's not as big. And if I recall correctly, and I might be wrong about this, I think they do a bit of cuckoo brewing, so they don't have their own location, which means it is a lot more difficult for them to produce in the volume that maybe some other people are producing. So you used to see them in Tesco all the time, and now you don't see them. Their Brut IPA used to be in Tesco all the time, and I really liked it. So
it smells amazing. Just cracking that can open there.
Oh, it does. Yeah, it's very it just sort of hit me over here.
Ooh. A little bit. I've got a very, very large head on mine.
My glass is not what I would consider beer clean, so I'm not gonna.
I've got an absolutely massive white head on mine.
I'm just waiting for my uncleanliness to disappear.
So that, as you said, that unfiltered. It's hazy.
Yeah,
not incredibly. It's not soupy. I can see my hand through it.
No, but it's kind of that thing where you can see your hand, but it's not
as
clear as maybe some others.
I've got an absolutely massive, thick, bubbly white head on mine.
Yeah, and it's holding quite well, to be fair, because as I just said, I was sort of like waiting for this to dissipate, and it's still there.
It's a nice yellow.
Yes,
like primary.
It's quite like when you do this, when you swirl it around, the head is quite just dense. Dense is the word. Dense is the exact word I was looking for.
And it's got a really tropical fruit aroma from those hops. Yeah, tropical aroma. So on the can it says, "We got this pale ale party started by mingling bold tropical aromas with a light malt base. Clean and fresh with a smooth finish. Tastes like good times." Oh, that's a good beer to celebrate international.
Smells like good times. Yeah.
I can smell the base malt in it.
I just need to get right in it. Oh my god, that's gorgeous. Has a really nice taste. It's like fruity. There's like a really like it's a very light but very fruity, very full on fruit, and it is nice. At first it's a bit dry. It goes kind of like dry at first, and then like immediately just this heavy fruity taste to it, and it's really nice.
There's a nice little bit of bitterness at the end that just balances the fruit.
Yeah.
This is a sitting in the sun beer.
It's definitely a sitting in the sun beer. Yeah.
For the good times.
Definitely.
You could drink a few of those. 5.5%. So you could definitely drink a few of those.
It is definitely what you'd call a barbecue beer.
Yeah, it's definitely a barbecue beer. It's lovely. Yeah. It's
I'm a fan of this one.
Simple in the best kind of way.
Yeah.
Like simple done really well.
Yeah, very well executed for sure. It's sometimes I think sometimes breweries can sort of go for something so complex that it's good in terms of making something interesting, but sometimes it's kind of overcomplicated, whereas this is just nailing it at its most basic level. And I really enjoy that. It's definitely Moorish, something you can sip on quite a while. Very sessionable.
I like that a lot. Oh, that was a good selection for today.
That was pat on your back, Joe, because I think you actually selected these.
So... Well, it came with my t-shirt. So this was a Christmas present from my husband, and it was a tube, and you got 2 of the American Pale Ale, the t-shirt, and then it had a can of Codebreaker in it, which was a rebrew of the beer that they did for International Women's Day last year. And that was brewed for International Women's Collaboration Brew Day, which also falls on the same day. And they have a different theme for that every year. And last year's was Tribute. And it was brewed. So this was brewed with, no, not this one. The Codebreaker one was brewed with the Enigma hop.
Oh, right, okay.
As a tribute to the Codebreaker, Joan Clark. Who is a little known cryptanalyst who worked during World War II to decipher the Enigma machine.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That is an interesting choice.
Yeah, so I've got one of those in the fridge and I haven't drunk it yet.
Save that for International Women's Day.
Yeah, I will be drinking it on International Women's Day.
Which is today. For sure. But yeah, this is just a nice, clean little number. I'm loving it. It's vegan friendly, so you don't have to worry about sort of worrying too much about that. It's completely vegan.
I've enjoyed a lot of their beers. They did a really lovely cherry beer with Brewdog for Clubfest.
Oh, right.
Not this past year, the year before. And I didn't manage to get to Clubfest. I didn't think I was going to get it. But then the Hubs and I did a little trip to Nottingham and hit up Cambridge on the way back down between Christmas and New Year. And they actually happened to have Deeds. It was called Deeds Not Words.
Brilliant.
Based on the suffragettes. And they actually had it on tap still in Cambridge.
Oh, good timing then.
And I was just like, I am having
it.
one of those, please and thank you.
That's brilliant timing on that.
Yeah, I love their beers. They're really good.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've only really had their Brett IPA, but I had a lot of their Brett IPA because it was something that you could so easily get. And we are big barbecue people in my house. So we spend, in the summer when it's nice out, we spend a lot of time outside barbecuing and just sitting in the sun. So I think similar to this, their Brett IPA was very much for me a barbecue beer. So that's why I'd be like, oh, barbecue's happening. And then I go to Tesco's and be like, clear the shelf, we're going. So I'm just really like gutted that I can't just get it so easily anymore as just the last minute sort of fridge filler, as you like. But
their watermelon beer.
Oh, that sounds nice.
I think it was a Goes actually.
Like a good bit of watermelon.
That was brewed for International Women's Day 2019, and a percentage of the profits from that went towards supporting refugee women.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, so they do good work, does Mothership. Brilliant beer, brilliant causes. Love it.
Yeah, you got to support them. I would like to try even more from them. It's just like I said, it's so difficult to find them at the minute. And maybe once things open back up, it will be when you can actually go back to putting things on tap as well. There might be sort of a bit more of a, get more stuff out there, and there's more ability to go and brew at other people's facilities and all that. So fingers crossed on that. But speaking of the fact that you were just saying in their previous brewing years, if we just take it back a step, so what is International Women's Day? So International Women's Day, for anyone that doesn't know, it's not specific to brewing or the beer industry or anything like that. It is just the one day of the year where you celebrate the social, economic, cultural, and political achievements of women, just on the whole, across the world. It's you find in businesses like I'm in, I think I've mentioned before, IT, telecoms, you get that has always historically been quite male dominated. So there's a lot of things that happens. We're going to do an event for International Women's Day, and I think you'll see a lot of different sectors having different events and speakers and all that come out. So the beer industry has historically done a lot of the brews for International Women's Day. And Jo, you've got more experience with that than I do. So, do you want to talk about what you've done in the past?
Yeah. So for brewing, there is an event called International Women's Collaboration Brew Day. It was started by Sophie Durand from Burnt Mill, and Jager Wise from Wildcard has supported it a lot as well. And so it's always on or around, depending on what the brewery is doing, International Women's Day. And it is where breweries can get female women that work in the industry together to brew together. They can put on events to encourage women into the industry. So I've been to the last 2 years. I've been up to Wildcard in Walthamstow, and Jager opens up the brewery to any woman that wants to come and brew with them. So the first year, 2019, I went up and there's always a theme for International Women's Collaboration Brew Day. That year it was forage. So we all went so it's women from all different breweries who work in different areas of brewing, and women that just enjoyed beer. And at the time I was just a woman that enjoyed beer, and I was like, I want to go to a brewery and brew a beer with other women. That sounds amazing.
Were you homebrewing at that point?
Yeah, I was homebrewing.
So you were still homebrewing?
Yeah. So I popped on the train, went and found them on the industrial estate that they are, and stuck my head in. So with that brew, there was a team of people that went out to because it was forage was the theme. A team of women went out to the Walthamstow marshes and foraged mugwort and something else I can't now remember. But they went and foraged ingredients. Then I spent the entire day cleaning lemon peel for this beer. There was
man.
it was like a production line. There was women cutting open the limes and then lemons, and then people juicing the lemons, and then it was coming around to, and then someone was taking the zest off, and then we were sat there literally with a spoon or a knife just scraping the pith off the back of the lemon rind, so that you just get the zest part with all the oils in it. And so that nearly didn't make it in. I spent the entire day cleaning up all of this lemon peel with a couple of other people. It wasn't just me, but then it was in a bucket, and they nearly forgot to put it in.
Can you imagine if you spent
oh my god, it was so funny.
Day,
it was so
they were
funny.
Like, yeah, actually we did. Yeah. Oh, sorry, we forgot about that. Good job,
though. By the time I got there, the brew had already been started. I helped out with part of the sparge, and then we were stood cleaning doing ingredients and stuff. And they always have there's always a food truck or something there, and everyone, all the women that are in breweries and stuff, bring beers from their breweries, and everyone swaps, and you drink beers while you're working, and it's lovely, and you get to chat to women. I've met, that's where I first ever met Mary Hoppins and some other women that I now chat to all the time
on Instagram. Mary Hoppins.
yeah, Mary Hoppins. That's what her Instagram name is. So
I've got a feeling anyone that's listening that doesn't already follow.
Yeah, that's her Instagram.
It's going to be
name.
Like, hang on,
yeah. And I just I met loads of amazing women and do various different things all over the place in the brewing industry, or just enjoyed beer. And so they made tea out of the foraged ingredients and added that in. Then the lemon juice was being saved for after it had fermented to go in. And then there's this 2 massive buckets of lemon peel sat there, and we'd we'd eaten, we were drinking, we were stood around chatting, and someone just went, "Is that lemon peel supposed to have gone in?" We got grabbed and got chucked in. It was great. So it went in the end, but it was really, because as a home brewer, I know that a lot of it is cleaning and prepping and stuff like that. But it was really interesting to see that whole process behind it in a commercial brewery. And it was just, we needed thousands of lemons to go in this beer. And we were all just stood there cleaning it because we needed however many kilograms of lemon peel to go into it. And the amount of work that goes into it was amazing. So that was the first year. Wasn't put off. Came back the second year. It was probably one of the last things that I did before lockdown hit. And that one the theme was tribute. So an IPA was brewed to honour Ada Lovelace for all of her work in mathematics. And for that one, Jager got all the women together and they put us into teams, and we had to identify different hops. So they gave us the hops and they were like, right, smell it, feel it, crush it in your hand and smell it, write down what you think each one of these smells like. They took them all away, and then each team got them back, and you had to say which one was which. And then the team that won a case of beer.
Motivation, that's always good.
Right. So there was 2 teams that won, and one was mine. And we were sat there, we were doing them. And this is why I always say that Mosaic smells like broccoli. So we had it, and there was 2, and we'd written down this one as Citra, I think, or Cascade. And then then Mosaic came up, and I smelt it, and I was just like, or we'd got one down as Mosaic, and I was just like, this one's Mosaic because it smells like broccoli. And they were like, "Oh, are you sure?" And I was like, "Yeah, I think we swapped those 2 around."
Yeah.
And then we got them all right. So thank you for my nose for picking up broccoli.
Well done, broccoli.
So there was this whole learning session about hops. I mean, it was great that we won a case of beer between us. That was brilliant as well. But as well, we were then helping, we helped to clean out the mash tun. And I got to put in the last hop edition, because then where we'd smelled the hops, so that we then picked what hops were going to go into the IPA. So there's a picture of me.
So is that sort of decided on the day then? Did they just go, we've got all these hops, which ones do we put in? And then sort of the end of the day you went, oh, that one's great, let's do that one.
Well, I think they had an idea of what they wanted to do for that one. So they're a commercial brewery, so they've got all of
they're going to have everything anyway.
Yeah. So there were some decisions made on the day. It's exactly which ones would go in, but percentages and things like that were already decided. But yeah, so brewed that beer there as well. Sophie Duron does very similar at Burnt Mill.
Yeah.
Every year. Unfortunately, of course, this year we're not going to be able to get together like that. So there are some virtual brews going on instead. So I'm a member of a group on Facebook called Crafty Beer Girls, which is, again, women that work in the beer industry, and women that enjoy beer, and we all get together in this Facebook group. And the group's 6 years old this year, and Cloudwater is 6 years old this year as well. And so Cloudwater's collaborated with Crafty Beer Girls. They sent us all out if we wanted to be a part of it, they sent us out a Google form, and we picked what style of beer would be made, what ingredients would go into it, and then we've given input on the name, and we input onto the ABV as well, and then we've given input into the name, and it's going to be a stout.
Yeah, I remember you saying like, there's a few different things I can go, and I kind of want to. I was like, we obviously are going to put stout, and you're like, well, I kind of want to, but I don't know if anyone else is going to vote for that. I was like, go with your heart, Jo, and then you're like, I went with my heart, and they picked stout.
I thought it was really interesting though, because I've done virtual brews like this before, where they give you like choices and you select, and it's always been an IPA or a pale beer every time, even though I've always gone for the darker option. I think I must always like put the scale out. So with this one I was like, I wonder if I should just go for like a lager instead, just to be different. And you were like, no, pick what you really want.
Like,
so I picked a stout.
Heart, Jo. And then you're like, I went with my heart, and it's a stout.
And I thought it was so interesting that a group of women picked a stout. Whereas before, when it's been mixed, it's always been a pale. So I thought that was really interesting. I wonder if that says anything about
I've never done a group brew like choices. That before. Yeah, it might do. I've never done sort of like that group brew situation before in that way, anyways, or in any way, but especially in that way. I've never seen that come through as something before. And Siren have just done their birthday's coming up, so they've decided to do similar for their birthday. And it's funny because I went stout.
I voted in that one as well.
I went stout, and I bet, did you pick stout for your first choice?
I picked kettle sour. I
picked stout, and then it comes back saying, yeah, you foiled us, we were going to do that anyways, pick another one. I ended up picking a sour, and I think I picked a kettle sour for that.
I think I did.
It was just really fun and interesting, and to be fair, like their form was so, the way you engage with it is really fun, because they would send you like a GIF back that's like, now we've done it. It would be like people with party hats on, like GIFing out sort of thing. And it was really cool, that. And I've just, that's the first time I've ever done any type of like community brew, so I can only imagine what it was like being there and physically doing it. Like obviously it's much more intensive, like labor intensive and everything, than me just ticking a box. Like I can't even pretend that compete.
I love to get like properly stuck in. I'm like, where's the shovel? I'm cleaning out the mash tun. I love it. It's brilliant.
Was there like a limit on the number of people that could go, or was it literally just like,
no, they do it through Eventbrite, and you have to say that you're going to go, right, so they know have numbers. Some idea of But and people pop in and out. Like people pop in to see people and say hi and see what's going on, and then leave again. And some people stay all day. And I always end up getting there a little bit late, because the train's a little bit cheaper from here up to London after a certain time. So I usually wait till off peak, and I usually get there about 11:30 or so. And so the brew's already on, because you need to get that going. But it's a good. I love it. I absolutely love it. And it's just like you could see what a commercial brew day is like. It's great.
And it sounds cool that you had, like, the second time you did it, you also had like a bit of the like learning experience to it as well. It wasn't straight we're just brewing, which is that's fine. Like I think that's really cool. Like I think some people would mind getting messier maybe a bit more than I would. I wouldn't care. I would just be like, I want to get in it, I want to do something, I want to learn how to do stuff. It would be quite fun. But I think the learning aspect of it as well is quite nice, because it's not, it kind of comes full circle, because it's like, not only are you having women help you brew the stuff, but you're also educating the women as you're doing it, which might get more people.
It's about exactly what it's about. It's what Jager and Sophie are trying to do. They want women to be educated about beer and as well, like by sharing beers and trying different beers, you're trying different things, and people are finding out what they like and what they don't like and things like that, discovering new breweries. Like it's all a massive learning experience, and to encourage more women into the industry. And and to try different things in the industry, if they're, because there's women there from the marketing side and the sales side, and maybe they then want to get into the brewing side of it. Like, it's really great. I love it.
Yeah, no, that sounds really incredible. It's obviously like it's a crap situation that obviously it can't happen this year,
so
but
sad.
maybe instead let's give them some ideas, right? We either postpone it a little bit, and then maybe it's like when lockdown lifts and we can do stuff like this again. You have a international celebration of being out of lockdown day, and then we can all go
brew, and we'll just go brew.
And then just
I don't think anybody needs any excuses to brew beer, to be honest.
Yeah, but I want an excuse to go. I want somebody to invite me to go and brew with them. I'd love that.
When we can actually meet up, you can come and brew with me at my house.
Yeah, that'll be fun. I'll do that. I'll definitely do that.
And because we can't get together, so we have joined into International Women's Collaboration Brew Day this year. Yes. Love Beer Learning and a women's pint club, which is our women's Facebook group. Yeah, if you'd like to join us, have a look for Women's Pint Club. Just search for that on Facebook and you will find us. We have done a virtual brew that I am going to brew in my kitchen. We did similar. I put out some choices.
And what did we vote on, Joanne?
You voted for a jam donut stout. Nothing like challenging me a little bit.
To be fair, I think you brought it on yourself, because you did kind of say, I'm going to brew it, and I'm just be wary. It has to be something that can be done in my house. And then I think we picked the most like outlandish thing that we could pick for you to brew.
I mean, it's not as bad. It was nearly peanut butter and jelly.
I added that on it. I think that there's a chance that probably could have made it further if I had realized that we were allowed to add things sooner. But I didn't know we were allowed to add options.
I did put that at the top. You obviously didn't read the instructions, Tori.
I didn't read the instructions. I skim read and I just went, just select. So fine, I'll select something. And then I realized after, hang on, I can actually add options. So I went back and I added that after the fact. But it was too late. Jam Donut had already sealed the deal, but I voted for that as well.
So when this comes out, I'll have brewed this beer the day before. So I'm still contemplating whether I'm going to put actual donuts in it or not.
I think you should, because I think that would be like, there's so many.
It's controlling the oils in them, though. I think is
but
the
then
problem.
That could make it more exciting and risky. Live on the edge, Joanne. Live on the edge.
I don't want to brew a rubbish beer though. I found some recipes that I'm referencing to put together for mine. I'm going to put raspberries in it. Like there's going to be actual raspberries in for the jam bit.
Full on donut. Like I want donuts chucked in. Like, can you just do like non-jam donuts and just chuck them?
That's what I was thinking about it. I've got to work out, because I've been reading about it, and it's whether they go in as part of the mash. So a bit of a toast type. Remove some of the grain bill and put those in instead. Or I've also read that actually, if you kind of dry hop with them, that gives you quite a donutty taste as well.
Or do both. Just do both. Just go full donut.
That's a lot of donuts.
Everyone loves donuts. Don't be silly. Go full donut. It would be great. But I think it'd be good. And then the plan, is you're gonna kind of stream yourself doing that, aren't you?
Yes.
We're voting on the name now.
Yes.
So we've been it'll be too late by the time you hear this, but
but you can go back to the Love Beer Learning Facebook page and watch the stream, because it'll be there.
So that'll be good. We'll have a name by that point and it will be good to go. And then you're going to try to get smaller bottles so that we can
so I can try and send them out to people, and I can keep some back for when we can get together, is my plan, rather than doing my usual pint bottles, because I've managed to get about 11 smaller bottles out of the batch. So if I can get the smaller bottles, see if I can get some more for people.
Be exciting. I'm excited to see how it turns out. I'm excited to see how you work out what recipe you're going to do. Will you do a bit that will be sort of the logic behind the recipe you pick? Like would you be open to going like, this is how I've brewed this, and obviously we're veering off like International Women's Day specific, but it is relevant in the fact that you're brewing this for International Women's Day. But like, would you go through and go, I've picked these ingredients, here's why I've chosen to add like the donuts in this particular way because you have to add donuts. So I'm pressurizing you. Or like I've chosen this many raspberries to give it this level of taste or something like that. And then
I can like when I'm doing my brewing, I usually explain, when I'm doing the videos of the brewing, I usually explain why I've picked various different things and why we're doing it in a certain way. Yeah. Of course, because the live stream that'll be up now will only be the brewing, like the hot side point. The raspberries will be added after fermentation.
So can you imagine if you had that a 24-hour live stream, a whole week live stream? Right, people just sit and watch.
There'll then have to be a follow-up of adding bits, bottling. Those are separate chunks.
Yes, that will be fun. So that will be a good thing to look out for. I mean, I don't know if there's anybody. Are there any other breweries that you can think of that are doing ones this year? Because obviously, like Wildcard are.
Well, if you go to the International Women's Collaboration Brew Day website, which is International Women's Day, iwdcb.org. There is a map there, and you can see all the different places that are doing different things, and it shows you where they are. So Wildcard's doing something, Burnt Mill's doing something. I assume they're just making a beer for International Women's Day. I've not seen details about that yet, or whether they may have done similar with forms and things like that.
Yeah. So I think
put that link in the show notes.
Yeah, if we can put that link in, and then you can link Women's Pint Club for anybody that's interested in Women's Pint Club. Because obviously, I think we've mentioned it before. That was the group that you started local to you, but then since lockdown, it sort of expanded to a more digital audience. And that's when I joined. When you were like, "Yeah, well, it's pretty much digital now." So yeah, it's really good, supportive group. So definitely go check that out and watch Jo's live stream. Go back and watch it because it will be interesting as usual when she does all of her brewing and all that. So that'd be good. And so I think just before we go on to share the chat that we had with the other women, if we just want to call out a few either female owned, partially owned, or breweries that have females that play quite a heavy sort of role in it, being a head brewer or anything like that. I think just to start, anybody that's following us thus far and has made it this far into the episode probably already know we've done our very first episode was female head brewers. So we already covered Wildcard, Burnt Mills and Aura, having the female head brewers and all that. That was episode 1. So go back and watch that if you haven't already, because I think we've already pretty fully covered them and drank their beer. So definitely worth going back and checking out. And then just a few others to name. I'll name a few. You can name a few. I know sort of Marble Brewery, that's got a lead. The director is a female there. That's Janet Rogers. You got Queer Brewing Project that was founded by Lee Waite. So they obviously now sort of teamed up with Cloudwater, which I think everybody sort of knows there's that collaboration there. You've got Anarchy Brew Co., Meraki Breweries, another new one. That's a husband and wife duo. The husband does the brewing and the wife sort of does the marketing, sort of all that other various things in there. Any you want to? I know Fierce has a lot of female heads
there's
of
a lot of women working in Fierce. So Duration is Bates and Miranda's very active in the brewing community.
Double Barreled, because they did the tasting with Double Barreled the other night, and Double Barreled's husband and wife Lucy's over there. She's really lovely.
Crowns and Hops has obviously got Teo and Benny is the CEO and co-founder there. Benny Ashburn. Her Instagram is amazing, so go follow her.
She's amazing. They're both amazing. I like the energy that they get. I could watch the two of them talk for ages because they are just so engaging, just both of them. I love it.
And Neptune Brewery has Julie O'Grady over there. She doesn't brew as much nowadays as she used to, but she does every now and then pop in and do a bit of brewing. She often does a lot of International Women's Day events as well up at Neptune. And actually she runs a women's beer group up in Liverpool called Ladies That Beer. And when I was thinking about starting Women's Pint Club, I messaged her and got some advice about running a women's beer group from Julie. So she's brilliant as well. Go drink some Neptune beer.
Nice. I've got one in my fridge that I almost had the other night, but we shut the chat down before I managed to get onto another beer. So
that's probably a good thing.
Probably for the best. I was able to wake up without too much issue the next day.
Oh, and Delirium always do a International Women's Day beer called Deliria.
Oh,
yeah,
interesting.
I've got one of those in the fridge. It's quite difficult to get hold of over here. I think I've literally had it in, where did I get mine? Beers of Europe, I think. And they have.
I don't think we can really get any more now, can we?
Well, no. Well, you might be able to. It depends on how things go. Certain beers are managing to make it through now, I think. But yeah, this one's probably going to be more difficult. But I had to put a notify me when in stock notification on their website, and then one day I just magically got an email going, "This is in stock," and I was like, "Right, I want to win a whole box of beer just so I can get this beer." But I've got that in my fridge as well. So
brilliant.
Yeah.
So I think there's some others that some people have named. I don't know if they're fully sort of if it's owned or just head brewerized, but I know that Arundel Brewery, that's like a husband and wife duo. So that's good. And I think they've got a female assistant head brewer. I think I've seen somewhere as well. I didn't know this, but apparently Loch Lomond has some prominent women there. New Barnes is another one. So yeah, there's a whole bunch
Amity,
of grounded Amity Brew Co. Just trying to name as many as possible to get it out there. So yeah. It's Wild Horse has a female GM, so that's quite good. I think Boss Brewing's got I think they've got a female brewer, but it might be a co-owned. I can't remember if I'm honest, but that just came out top of my head. So yeah, that's all the ones that I can think of.
Yeah.
So without further ado, should we go on to our lovely chat?
So this chat was with women from Women's Pint Club, and also from some other women that we invited along who wanted to chat about their experiences. So have a little listen and see how women experience the beer community and industry. So we have some wonderful women with us.
Should we start off saying who we are and what we're drinking?
That's a good one. Yes. That's a good one. Right, do you want to go first, Tori dear?
Oh God. Okay. Yeah. Hi, my name's Tori. I co-host the podcast with Joanne, for anyone that doesn't know, and I thought I'd be very topical today and I would drink a Brewdog bloody good beer.
Oh, well done.
I finally managed to get my hands on one without buying a whole 12-pack. So
who needs a 12-pack other than to raise money for a wonderful cause?
Yeah, exactly. But my wallet did not like that.
No, wallets don't do that. I am Joanne. Hello from a Women's Brew podcast. We just did a little live about Northern Monk's 0FS025, which is a strawberry plum sakura fruited beer. It is very delicious. It's very pink. So, all those people that call, it girl beer. No, beer is for everybody. And this is a delicious beer. So go get some if you haven't already. Let's go to my, what side? This side. That's going to be Tamsin.
Hi everybody, I'm Tamsin, the same one on the Brewdog News podcast, so you'll probably recognise my terrible jokes from there. I am drinking a Hawks Gosnell Sizer this evening, which is hopped cider with mead.
Ooh,
interesting. Really good. That sounded really good, and one that I'm jealous of.
Yeah,
I bought more. I bought some and then I bought more.
That's how good it is.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Carrie, do you want to go next?
Sure. I'm Carrie and I'm from Pittsburgh, and I'm drinking one of my favorite beers, but it's one of the first time they brewed in the US. It's the Very Big Moose and Fierce Collaboration. And it's interesting. We've been blessed by people in Brewdog, and we had originally had one of the guys gave us one of the original ones on the first flight. He gave us one of the originals, and we did a side-by-side comparison between this one and the US version, and then we did the UK version. So it was really neat to see the difference, and there was a slight difference. The US is a little bit closer to the original and that kind of stuff. And I like Fierce a lot because Louise is excellent and wonderful and amazing, and people at Fierce are great. So. But I also realized since it's only $3.45 in the US, I'm sitting there going, I also have tea on the side because I'm having one that will take my 10%. Because I think it's a 10%er, I think. So I'm like, but yeah, so that's what I have.
You're just hardcore, Carrie. That's what it is. It's very hardcore.
Next, well, your name says Chris, and your name's not Chris, is it?
Jackie.
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 Hello, I'm Jackie, and I'm drinking, also Northern Monk, I'm drinking Eternal Sunshine Double Dry Hopped IPA, 5.5%, right up my street. This is exactly the sort of beer I like. It's quite a long way from the very first beer I ever had in a pub, which I think was probably more than 40 years ago, and was a man's brown ale, 3.5%.
I love a
Very
brown ale.
sweet, but still probably would drink one if I saw one, just for old time's sake.
I don't think you get enough brown ale.
Speaking of brown ale, I tagged you,
Good.
Joe,
Yeah.
in Elusive Breweries just released a brown ale, and I've just added one to my list. And Andy from Elusive will probably be dropping it off to me tomorrow.
Yeah, I need to get that. I love a brown ale, and there isn't enough. So interesting fact. Well, just because we're going to go off on a tangent because that's what we do.
Yeah, we apologise in advance for that. Sorry.
About brown ales. So when I was doing my Cicerone training for the beer server exam, Cicerone say that a Witchwood Hobgoblin is a brown ale, and I was like, I don't think it is. But that's one of the ones that they say is a good example of a brown ale, and I was like, as a British beer drinker, I don't agree with you, but okay.
I would probably put it in a best bitter category.
Yeah, probably more. I suppose because it's darker. I mean, I feel like it's in a little one of its own in Ruby beers. Like that's a separate, like a little bit higher up than a brown ale. It's not like you couldn't compare it to like Newcastle Brown. So, which is
it's one I can drink and one I can't drink. So
there you go. See,
exactly.
brilliant. All right, let's get back on track. Rachel, do you want to go next?
Yeah, I am drinking classic fridge filler for me, Jaipur by Thornbridge.
Ooh,
Very nice.
Obviously.
good one. Yeah. And Lucy.
Hello. Yeah, I'm Lucy, and I'm drinking Open Life by Track,
Nice.
which
Excellent choice.
I was debating between stock management or fresh beer, and it's coming towards the end. It's always that ongoing debate, isn't it? Do you drink what's freshest or do you drink what needs to be drunk?
Yeah.
Well,
You rotate your beer fridge, Lucy.
Of course, yes.
Ah.
I
Solid.
That's it. I do. I go to my beer. I've got a big kind of cupboard. I keep all mine. I don't keep any in the fridge, and I just chill it as required. But I go, which have I got two of? Like I've got this thing. Like I can only drink if I've got two of something. That'll take precedence over the ones of anything.
Ah, see, I generally only have one of anything because I like trying lots of different things. So I only have one. But I tend to go for the fruit and the dark first, and I end up with loads of pails. Like I've had to go in and be like, oh, I've got quite a few pails. I better drink some of them. And then I'll just have a blitz on pails, and then I'll go back to my ones, because otherwise I just go, oh, look at that lovely new raspberry one I've put in there, let me have that. Oh, better get something older out first.
So the ones that have got the shortest shelf life,
Yeah.
and that's not easy to say.
No.
They're the ones that you just leave until you have to drink them.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've ended up, because of the way that we're like buying beer at the moment, I've ended up with like packs. So I've ended up with more pails, I think, than I would have normally. Or I've bought some because, you know, I needed to make it up to the amount that you've got to buy to order online or to get free shipping or whatever. And so I've ended up with a few, and I was like, oh yeah, I bought that. I better drink it.
It's funny you say that though, because I used to buy two of everything when like lockdown first started, and I was like not really used to drinking the same volumes at home as going out. So I used to buy like two of everything, one for me, one for my husband. And then it was kind of like, I've said it before and I'll say it again, he doesn't really appreciate it in the same way that I do. And I don't mean that, it's not a slight. It's like, to him, he's just like, yeah, it tastes good and that's it. And he doesn't drink it in the same way that I drink it. And he's not usually in the mood. He's far more into fitness than I am. Hands up to about that. So he doesn't drink to the same, especially with the podcast, the same way that I do. So I've kind of been like, oh, I don't really want to buy two of everything anymore, because it's just going to take ages to drink through it. So now I just do what you do, Joe. I just buy one of everything, one of
Yeah.
all the things I want. And if I'm very close to free shipping, I'm like, yeah, all right, go on then.
Right, I have to explain the reason I've got 2 of everything.
Yeah.
I hope you can't hear me, right? Right, is because my husband brings home beer and I demand half of everything that he buys. So he'll come back with like a 4-pack of Elvis juice, and I'll be like, and 2 are mine. Thank you very much. And so I basically take half his beer, put it in my beer cupboard, and that's why I have to.
See, does he like go into the and go, 2 of them are missing? What's happened? You're like, I don't even know. I don't know what's happened.
No, it's the beer tax. It's the marriage
It's
beer
the
tax.
Oh, appreciate that.
That's brilliant. Apart from the lost lager, he can have all of that, can't he?
No, that's true. I gave
Yeah.
him my lost lager as a
Fair
token
trade.
gesture.
Yeah.
Fair trade.
Yeah, that's a fair trade. All right, so let's talk about being women in the beer community. What are our experiences? What have we enjoyed? What have we not enjoyed? Shall I start? So I live down in Kent. Very, very traditional. We've got a lot of real ale, and I started drinking lots of different beers at beer festivals here in Kent. And it is still very like they're almost all run by camera, the campaign for real ale. So it's all very your traditional styles and things like that. Many times stood at the bar, looked dead at, and then they served the man next to me. And then and my favorite was one year, Pig and Porter, who are a brewery down this way, they brewed a Hefeweizen, and they only made 3 casks of it, I think. And they were like, one is going to be at the Kent Beer Festival, and I was like, right, I'm going to get me some of that. Sounds lovely. Went in. I got a half of it, and my friend, who's male, got a pint of it. Came and sat down, and we were sat. They put out long tables with chairs and stuff, and so we were sat there, and a gentleman was sat next to my friend, and he looked at this beer, and he went, "That's off, mate. You want to give that back?" And my friend was like, "Oh, no, I don't think it is." And he was like, "Yeah, shouldn't be hazy like that, mate. You want to go take that back?" And I was like, "Oh, no, it's a Hefeweizen. So it's a wheat beer. So it's supposed to be hazy." And this guy literally looked at me, ignored me. "You want to take that back, mate? That's not right. No, that's going to give you trouble tomorrow." Cheers.
It's funny you say that, because I think I've witnessed this sort of on like sort of all aspects of social media, not in one place in particular, but I've kind of noticed that whether it's I don't think it's intentional, I think it's like a subconscious thing, that you'll see like a male post something about a beer, and then or a female post something about a beer, and it's like the males tend to gravitate towards each other's opinions instead of it. Like I could say something tastes like however I think it tastes, and then it's kind of like, well, that gets ignored, and then a comment under that will say like the same thing. People go, yeah, that's exactly right. And I'm not saying it's intentional by any means, but for some reason there's just this subconscious thing that if I'm saying it, someone might come back to me and say like, "Oh, are you sure you meant that?" Or, "Is that what you meant for, did you definitely mean that?" But then like a man will say something that's way more a bit left field, and then all of a sudden it will be like, "Oh yeah, okay, yeah, that's definitely right." And it's just, I don't know if it's just been what I've experienced, if anybody else has experienced that, but it's sometimes you're just like, I do promise I kind of know what I'm talking about.
That's just the world, though, isn't it? It's not just here.
Yeah.
It's not, not just in beer, it's in everything.
You can sit in a meeting and put forward an idea 10 times over and nobody hears you. And then the man next to you repeats what you've just said, and everyone goes, "Oh, yes, what a great idea."
Yep.
Whatever.
Yeah.
In a way, it's that unconscious bias that's the worst part of it all.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's it. It's like, I completely agree that I think it's an unconscious bias. I don't think that anybody's going out deliberately saying like, no, because I mean, you even see over like the holidays, there was something somebody posted, an industry posted something along the lines of, "Buy your man a brewery tour." Like, it was, amazing gifts for the beer lover in your life, you know, buy your man a brewery tour. And it was like so unintentionally exclusive.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like, well, maybe I'd like a brewery tour as well. You know, it's that thing that I think people don't think. They just go, who would like a brewery tour? Which market does this appeal to? Oh, we'll get it for women that don't know what to get their husbands. And they never think maybe husbands that don't know what to get their wives, or wives that don't know what to get their wives, or anything like that. There's just no thought process that maybe a female might also enjoy it.
On a side note though, did you hear the Moonpig radio advert? Because they were listing off, like, so they have, as well as their cards, they have different like gifts and stuff you can give out. And I was literally sat eating my dinner and this was on the radio and it's just playing in the background. And they're like, you know, get this person this, or you can buy this and so. And then they were like, for fun Aunt Sonia, get her a Brew Hawk beer box. And I was like, what? I was just like, what? Oh my God. And my husband was like, what is your problem? And I was like, did you not just hear that? Moonpig said, get a Beer Hawk beer box for Aunt Sonia. I was like, that's a woman's name. They were going to give beer to a woman. I was like, I'm going to buy cards from Moonpig forever now.
One of the things that I enjoy about being a woman who likes beer is that I feel like I can drink whatever I want, whatever mood I'm in. So like sometimes I go to Brewdog and I have a beer, and then sometimes I go and I have a gin and tonic. And then other days I'll go out for cocktails or champagne or whatever.
Yeah.
Like I feel like it's all open. Whereas I think if my husband went into Brewdog and said, I'll have a Prosecco, I don't think it would fly. So I quite like
the other way.
Yeah, I quite like that it's kind of, we don't get judged for whatever we drink, and I think that's a really positive thing.
Yeah,
that's a really good thing to highlight, I think, because I wouldn't have thought about it in that sense, because I think, you know, my partner's never in the mood for drinking something like Prosecco, so it just never pops into my brain. So it's like, yeah, you're right. If he went in and he was like, yeah, can I have like a pina colada? They might be like, oh, okay. If I'm getting a beer and he's getting that's the thing, is like, I'll order a beer and he gets, you know, pina colada. They'll switch the glasses around. You're just like, oh, no, hang on.
Yeah, with me,
had that once.
More often than not, I'll order a pint, but like my partner will order a glass of wine, and they just switch the drinks.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just stop it back. It's
yeah.
fine.
Yeah. Give me my pint back.
Yeah.
You're just like, you let them walk away and then you go,
We'll just swap those. It's fine. It's fine.
But yeah, that's a really good point, Tamsin, because it's not something that I think would have been immediately at the forefront of my brain. But you're totally right, because as you said, Jo, it does go the other way as well.
Yeah.
And it's just, obviously we're not in that situation to think about it that way. So yeah.
Though I will say, and there's the slight downside in that, is that bars that serve a lot of good beer have terrible wine selections. And if you do get the wine, it's really expensive, like ridiculously expensive, even for a bar. And also, I'll get a bottle of Prosecco because a certain bar does them cheap during the week, which I quite enjoy, and it's covered in dust. And you're like,
God.
Maybe I'm the only person drinking it in this bar. So you got to be careful a little bit.
Yeah, but it should age all right. It should be arguably better.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Tamsin, like you said, that was one of my experiences. I'm as far as my beer history, I'm fairly new to the thing. Ever since 2017, Brewdog's been my inspiration. And the Brewdog Airlines has been an amazing situation, because it's given me not only the Brewdog people, but it's also given me the community, and that's been an exposure to so many new beers. Wes and I were talking this week. It was hilarious. We were trying to think. I used to be one who liked all like fruity beers and Berliner Weisses and really low alcohol beers. And we were talking about our first experience at the USAGM in 2017. And we were like, and I said to Wes, I'm like, okay, wait, what was my first beer? I remember, and we had before the Raspberry Blitz went to non-alcohol, we had their version where they had the alcoholic version that was a 3%. We had both of those versions they brought over, and they were like my favorites. They were one of my things. And we had a couple different ones. And it was hilarious. Wes and I went to Franklinton the first time, and Brewdog brewed I just picked one of the low alcohol ones and so that kind of stuff. But it's been funny because Before that, I would try cider. I loved cider. Alcoholic cider was great. And it was all different varieties. And mead is another one that I love too. But we'd go to breweries, West to get the beer. I wouldn't find something that I'd like because I didn't try it enough. I didn't know what it was like. And so I would be in a situation like Tamsin said, gee, you go, okay, I want a cider or a mead. And it's like, you're paying an arm and a leg just for even half amount that you're getting beer. And it's like, that's ridiculous. And I think that's the one thing I think Brewdog does really well at offering other versions like that. Like Brewdog USA has a Prosecco Friday, which in my head, I'm like, I don't drink Prosecco that often, but at the same time, there's a way to get girls in the door.
Yeah.
There's a way that if anybody wants beer or Prosecco, they can get the Prosecco for it. And Short North in the US has been doing that, where they've been trying to find different beer cocktails. They've been trying to make and take the beer cocktails and try to do that because in Short North area in Columbus, there's a very much like you'll get droves of all different kinds of people where they want the cocktail. They come in and go, well, I don't want the beer. So they made the beery cocktails. And so therefore they also brought people in for that too. They came in for the beer cocktails, and it was a neat way to do that. And it's been fascinating for me as a female to realize and go, oh yeah, I never thought of it before. I always thought of, okay, cater to whatever you want to drink. And for us in the US, it's a little different. And it caused me to go down the rabbit hole of, in Pittsburgh, I don't even know what female brewers there are. But yet at the same time, realized that there's several breweries in Pittsburgh that are co-owned by women. Yep. And it's like a husband and wife thing. And there's been so many things like that. And I'm like, wow, we've been drinking different versions of that. And I went, oh yeah, I will definitely drink more of this brewery because of that and that kind of stuff. So it's neat to see how they're doing, and seeing lots of female. There's a brewer who was in Dancing Gnome in Pittsburgh that now moved to a new brewery that's opening in March. And she's going to be the head brewer. It's called Necromancer, which is another one that's opening in March, which is like unheard of and kind of thing like that. So it's been good too. So
I think sometimes it's difficult to find out where women are working in the beer industry. Like, I'm not saying that, every brewery should be like, we've got a woman working for us, but sometimes it's difficult to find out that there are women working in the beer industry and where they're working, so you can support that.
It's been fun to agree. Brewdog Pittsburgh has their GM is a girl, and a lot of their workers are females, and it's been fun getting to know them. And one of the girls who's like she's like almost like the greeter basically, but she's one who came from a Mormon background. And it's like she's got such a fascinating background that I'm like, I wouldn't think of in the US. It's one of those things like, gee, very much how did that get there, and how did she get there? But she loves, and it's fascinating to hear the stories of the women who are in the breweries too, just to say, and how did you get here? And Wes and I just watched a version of YouTube has a port in Pennsylvania. They've been doing lots of different Pennsylvania focused, and in Pennsylvania they did a year ago or 2 years ago they've been trying to do black owned breweries and trying to support different black owned breweries, but they also did collaborations. And they did collaborations with female-owned breweries at the same time at Fresh Fest, where they did both. And it was fascinating to see how you can tie the different businesses that had no idea what they were like. There was a lady who literally makes bow ties, and she worked with a brewery. And actually, they found a beer that they worked together to do, and it was like she's like, I love beer, but she said I wouldn't know what I go in to see which one I want. And so the fact that we could find which highlighted the female brewers and things like that. So it's been fascinating in the past couple of years to see newer situations like that where they actually have opportunities like that to do.
That's really cool.
So,
I like that.
So Lisa's joined. Lisa, what are you drinking? Hi, Lisa. Before we go any further, I need to find out what you're drinking.
Inspired me earlier, so I've actually opened the Old Flax Store 000.
Brilliant.
Coconut Imperial Stout.
Oh,
I do like an Imperial Stout. Very nice. As you know, I'm a coconut fan.
Yeah.
So thumbs up. It doesn't taste like that's why I like Imperial Stouts. They're just so unctuous and they're so thick, and I don't feel like I'm drinking a 12% beer.
Yeah. I like the ones where they're really well made and you can't taste, you don't get that alcohol burn.
Yeah, no, there's none in this. I mean,
Yeah.
I could drink this all night. Probably wouldn't fare very well, but
I'm sure Hayley will love that. You just keep drinking that.
That was like the one I had the other day. I was telling Joe I had the Winey Beast
Oh,
2020.
that one's so good.
Ooh.
If you like red wine and you like beer, you need to try this beer because it's a perfect marriage between the two things. And there isn't a horrible alcohol taste or anything. It's just, if you love red wine, you got to try it.
So I had on Valentine's Day, I had Sirens barrel aged. They did Many Moons, which was like a sour, but it was sort of aged in like a red wine. I believe it was a red wine barrel that they've aged it in. And it was very like, it was cherry, but you really got the red wine notes out of it. And it was so nice. I've got a second one that I've got that I thought I'll age for a bit and then see how it changes. But if you like red wine and you like a sour, highly recommend that, because it is just, I know that people will be like, oh, I've got Siren behind me, they'll go on about how much I love Siren, but like genuinely this was such just a well done winey but also not sour. It was really good. So if you're a person that's like, I'm not sure I really like red wine, but maybe it's a nice balance, I think, where you get the wine but you also get the cherry and the sour.
it really does have an effect, doesn't it? Because we've been drinking quite a lot of Brew York, their imperial stouts, and they're all sort of aged, aren't they, in the burgundy barrels and the whiskey barrels, and it really does have. You wouldn't think it has such an impact on the beer, but it really does. Really comes through. I like that.
See, I don't like red wine, but I really enjoy a red wine barrel aged beer, because I think you get the really lovely notes of red wine without kind of like the bitter tannins bit of it.
I think you're just drinking the wrong ones, Joe.
I mean, maybe. I'm just not a wine person.
I love red wine.
Not a wine person. I'm a beer person.
I'm the other way. I'll drink a red wine, but I wouldn't want to drink beer that tastes like red wine. It's like chocolate and cake. I like cake. I like chocolate. Give me a chocolate cake. Not interested.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Wow. Yeah,
controversial.
And then you've got Brew York's extra brownie pints, and I was like, this is like
yeah.
drinking cake. I am in love.
Yeah.
Like whoever's made this, I just want to kiss it. I'm so in love.
Right? That'd be nonsense beer. She's one in our group that's called them nonsense. We call it our nonsense beers. Ones that sound like things that wouldn't make sense, but sometimes there's good nonsense, and there's ones that taste horrible, but there's also ones that feel weird. Like, why would you combine those things into the beer? And to see, it's the same thing. It's like that's the part that about beer that's fascinating. Lisa, you talked about coconut. For me, I always did the Berliner Weisses, the real low alcohol things. We went to Brew Franklinton's opening. They were trying to make Radio Zombie and missed the mark. So therefore they missed the ABV. So they threw some coconut in one of them, and they threw peanut butter and jelly in another one. And they made Aloha version. But the coconut's one of those things when they do with extract, it's really challenging for me, because sometimes it tastes like you're licking sunscreen, and I go, I don't want sunscreen. No, thank you. No. I mean, that's how the US Pina Playa was at first, and then they changed it a little bit and added more pineapple, and the pineapple complemented, and it took away from that, because the very first year they made Pina Playa was delicious, but certain people went, I'm having coconut, but I'm also other people went, I'm having sunscreen, and it was both sides of the story, and it's just things like that. With extracts, it's harder to do.
Yeah, I think it's got to be toasted coconut, hasn't it, Joe? Or Sabro.
Yeah, coconut's hard, because I've had ones where it's just oily, because there's a lot of oil in coconut, and so you've just got to get that balance right, because like if it's in a stout, like it can completely knock the head out because of that oil in there. You got to toast it, you got to get it right.
We went through a whole phase, didn't we, Hayley and I, in the summer, just drinking, going for every beer to have Sabro in it, and some of them were really hit and miss. Some of them got it really on the nose, and others were just like to be honest.
It's the thing with Sabro is it just takes over. It absolutely takes over and just owns, which is great for me, because I love coconut.
And I love a bit of Sabro.
But if you don't like coconut, even if it's Sabro mixed with 3 other hops, Sabro is just going to overtake all of it. And I don't mind it. But yeah, if you're not a coconut person, it's just not happening. And if you don't try to find something to balance it out with, like literally there'll be something that doesn't necessarily list the hops out and I can have a sip of it and go, that's got Sabro in it. So you need something really heavy to balance that out, or else it's just like straight coconut.
This is a really good take on it. It's got that coconut coming through, but it's just not overpowering. So it's nice.
So that's a question. Do you think women kind of gravitate more towards the kind of, and I don't want to be general. We're not saying that we only like sweet flavored whatever beers, but you know, talking about all these kind of things, I think there are beers that women would probably try, like all the wine ones and things.
Yeah.
That I couldn't see men doing a podcast about wine beers.
Right.
Could you?
Well,
I think I
they'd-
probably could. Like I
Yeah.
could see some men do it, but like red wine, like I couldn't see them going like the Chardonnay barrel aged ones. Like I've got a few Chardonnay barrel aged ones. I don't
Yeah.
really know how they taste. I've not tried them yet. But I could see them going more towards the red wine than the white wine. But it's funny you say that, because I think how you were saying, Tamsin, that the positive thing about being a female in drinking beer is that you don't feel there's a pressure on you to have a certain drink when you go out. You can pretty much have anything. I think maybe there'll be ones that men want to try, but when it comes down to like, should, you know, if you can only fit so many things in the basket, there maybe are certain ones that they're like, oh, I don't know if I want to try that because that seems too quote unquote girly to try. So it's a disadvantage to them, because they might think like, I bet that's really good, but maybe it won't be seen in such a way if I try that. I don't know. I can't speak for them, but I think it's sort of the reverse of what you had said earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Also, when you order like a heavy ABV, like a tipper, it's like you know that's 10%.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
yes, that's why I ordered it.
Yeah. So Sarah Marie's not on tonight, but I know she won't mind me telling this story. Another Canberra Beer Festival in Kent, they had a Belgian bar, and she loves cherry. And they had, what did they have on? They had a Belgian cherry beer on, and there was a guy in front of her, and he ordered this cherry beer. Guy went and got it, gave it to him. So Marie pops up and goes, oh, I'll have the same one. And the guy goes, are you sure that you want that one? Do you want another one? And she was like, oh, have you got more cherry beers? And he was like, no, that's the only one. But are you sure you want that one? And she was like, well, I want a cherry beer, yeah. Oh, but it's quite high ABV.
I'll have to.
And she was like, I want a cherry beer, please go get it for me. And this guy was like, And another server had to come over and be like, what is it you want? I'll go get it for you. Because this guy was not going to give her this beer because he thought the ABV was too high for her.
What?
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, he
That's
served her a
insane.
glass of wine.
Right.
You pour her
a glass of wine.
14% red wine, no worries. And I'm like, it's exactly the same.
Exactly
which is
the
also
same.
dangerous, but
Yeah.
that was it.
But then likewise as well, I think there's like this stigma that goes on men, where it's like, if they want to drink something that's more sessionable, that's not as manly, and that's not
Right.
it's not.
Yeah,
You have to be drinking a dipper or a tipper or like the highest ABV BA impy stout you can find, or it's
Right.
not like manly enough to be drinking, in the same way that is that when we try to drink those ones, it's like, well, are you sure you want that ABV? Like, yeah, you'd give me a cocktail, like Tamsin said, you'd give me a
Yeah.
Yeah.
a bit of
Yeah.
wine, like you let
Yeah,
me
we
crush 3 bottles of Prosecco.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
But again,
Okay.
Yeah, the
also-
US can have that problem because our ABVs are a lot higher. And so therefore,
Yeah.
for me, the lower ones, I drink those if I want to try to have multiple at a time. But it's like one of those ones, it's like, I don't think it's as big of an issue, Pam. Do you think it's that big as an issue for us? No, I mean, we're so used to our lowest is like 6%. Like a 6%er is
Yeah.
a low for us. And so the fact that I have a 12%er, I'm trying to be good by spreading it out over the hour as opposed to taking a couple of, like, we're just so used to higher alcohols over here. And it's just, and sometimes the lower alcohols, we had one the other day that it was a lower alcohol, but it was delicious because it was made well. And some of the ones over here, the lower alcohols are the ones that I would have turned my nose up because they were crap beer when I grew up and that kind of stuff. And that's some of the reason why I didn't get beer when I was little, because I had all the beers that were around when I grew up was the swill and the crappy smelling, where you walk into a thing and it just smelled like somebody had just lost beer everywhere, but it wasn't a good beer.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that I'm like, I don't want to drink that. It's like, that doesn't even smell good. Whereas like going from something like the Very Big Moose, I mean, you don't think of it. It's chocolate and it's really rich, but it has the cinnamon, which changes, and you don't even, it's not even in its normal palate. But until you look at the actual recipe, it's like, oh yeah, cinnamon's there, but you don't think of it. And now I start to appreciate the different flavors that are in it.
Yeah.
So
that reminds me. So my first beer when I was old was actually Sweetheart Stout. So my dad got me a Sweetheart Stout, and it's only like 2% or something. It's like really light.
Yeah.
And then the other day I was in the shops and they were like selling them off, and I got some and I was like, this is really lovely. Like, I think we, in a way, now that I've kind of been drinking a lot of amazing beers at higher ABVs, I forget about that. But see, like, you know, early afternoon, you want a beer, I can fully recommend Sweetheart Stout. And it's got a bit of a cheesy can, but you just roll with it. It's actually really nice.
I've literally never heard of it. What is that?
What? Joe knows what I'm talking about.
No, I've not heard of it either.
What?
No.
Is this a Scottish thing?
It might be a Scottish thing, because our sweet stout down here is usually Mackeson's.
Oh yeah.
No, it's actually a brand called Sweetheart Stout, and it's got like a 1950s pin up, and it's 2%, but it is a proper stout.
Wow, never heard of it.
It's right. I will.
No, I want to try it. I want to try the 1950s pin up.
Yeah,
and the fact it's called Sweetheart Stout.
She's got bright red lipstick. She
is
rocking it. I'm telling you. But it's like they also sell it cheap, like 75p a can, because it's only like 2% or something.
Yeah,
I haven't dreamt it. It is real.
I believe you, Tamsin. You have to probably send one this way for us to know for sure. Rachel, were you going to say something?
Yeah, it was jumping back a little bit. It was halves and pints is a huge thing in pubs. Like I'll go like, oh, can I get a whatever beer it is, and they'll be like, oh, a half, and I'm like, no, a pint, a proper measure.
It is funny,
the initial instinct. Question a man,
exactly. The initial instinct of half, and you're like, no.
Although I'm a thirds girl because I like trying lots of things.
Going back to what you were saying before, Joanne, about the experiences you've had at real ale festivals. Do you think you've had the same experiences in craft beer bars? Because I find there's a definite divide in the two.
Yeah, definitely. So I've always said that the thing that I like about Brewdog bars is that I can walk in and I don't feel out of place. Like no one questions what I choose. No one's going to be like, oh, you sure you want that Imperial Stout? Or like, you know, if we're talking about beer, I'm not ignored. Like I think that you know, whatever people think about Brewdog, they have put together a community of people, and it's very welcoming, no matter who you are or what your background or whatever. So yeah, other craft bars I've found fine. So that we've got this one bar in Canterbury. It's a little bit more traditional, little bit craft. They tend to have cask and key keg on, and it's run by this really grumpy man. but he's brilliant. So we had a women's pint club meet up there, and there was 12 of us, and we literally took over a corner, and everyone kept walking through the door. And it's in one of these like old Canterbury buildings, but it's got all the beams, and there's like random poles and stuff in the way, and it's got like the lovely Tudor markings on the outside, and every time someone walked through the door, they'd be like, "There's 12 women sat over there drinking beer." And it was like I think about 3 or 4 different people said it out loud, looking right at us, and we were like, "Hi, yeah." But the really grumpy landlord would come over, but he was brilliant with it. Like once he realised that we were like into beer, didn't matter. He was just like, "Right, what do you like? Try that. Oh, you want to try a bit of everything? Start at the high," because he does his board in like lowest ABV to highest ABV, and he's like, start at the top with like where the highest ABV is and work your way back. Tell me which ones you want. And he'll go off and get them. And it was brilliant. And like, he never questioned that there was all. Oh, apart from that, we're called Women's Pint Club. He did then point out that none of us were ordering pints because we were all ordering birds.
I thought you were going to say he pointed out none
that.
of you were ladies.
No, it's just like, he was just like, Women's Pint Club, but you're not ordering pints. And I was like, no, but what we're ordering adds up to pints. And he was like, okay, fine.
See, that relates to what I would say is my negative. So just the nature through my work and things, I go to bars a lot on my own. And while I feel I can order anything, nobody really talks to me because I'm a woman. And I think there's a bit of like, I think if I was a man, I think I'd probably get a lot more stranger chat. I'm not saying that I want stranger chat, but there's definitely, you know what I mean? Like, because I was doing all the Scottish brew dogs and I was on my own doing them all. And it did feel a bit lonely because I just think people were like, if I talk to women, I'll get in trouble. So I'm just not going to talk to the women. So there's a bit of that as well, I think.
Yeah. I was just going to say, I wonder if it's that people were like, oh, if I chat to her in a friendly way, is she going to get the wrong idea? And is she going to think that I'm hitting on her? Or is she going to think that I'm being creepy or a pest or anything? But really, they just want to say hi to you. And it's just like, I guess the thing is, it's a roll of the die of you don't know the person that it is you're going to approach and speak to. So I can totally like empathize with your side of like, just chat to me. Like, I don't care. Let's just have a chat. But then on the other side, I can imagine how for them, they might be like, yeah, but I don't know what that person's like. And if they're going to just go off on me for talking to them, or they're going to take it the wrong way or anything like that. And it's just, I think you're right in the sense of like, when you approach a man in that way, there's not that same sort of, I'm approaching you and I'm worried you might think I'm hitting on you. Whereas like the men might think if I approach you, it's I'm afraid you might think I'm hitting on you.
I know, I do think like I'm alone in a bar and I'm drinking beer and I'll try and sit at the bar. I'll actually try and sit as close to like, so I'm not hiding in a corner or something. I'm just like, this is my 6th bar today. Please come and talk to me. I'm really bored of being on my own.
I just go out there. I'm just like, hi. How you doing?
Same. You've got no option after.
I'll just I'll just sit there and I'll listen for somebody to say something, and then I'll be like, yeah, I know about I'll do that as well. Let's have a conversation. You're being forced to speak to me now.
In the grocery store, it's the same thing. It's like I'm just standing there looking at the eggs, and people are like, come over, and I'm like, why are you talking? I mean, they know somehow they sense that I like to talk, which is fine. But sometimes I'm not in the mood to talk, and so therefore I'm like sitting there going, it's like I remember my first experience in Brewdog Aberdeen. I walked up to get it. Wes had gone up and get his beer and came back, and he ordered our food. And then I went up and he let me go up and pick my own. And I went up and picked my own. And all of a sudden, a guy standing at the bar, he's like, he noticed my beer visa. And all of a sudden, it was an opener for him to go, hey, what's that? And so like I started talking about it, and he was like, I think sometimes that's it. I think sometimes it's they need an opener. Yeah. It doesn't matter if you're guys or girls. It's they need an opener. They need to go, okay, are you a safe person to talk to? Or is somebody going to sit there and give you an evil eye? Like, because in the world that it's so hard to trust people, girls or guys. And it's like, because Jackie and Lucy will know that, like with the WhatsApp group, whenever we get together with them, like literally, like we're sharing beers. It doesn't matter if you're guy or girl. We're like, oh, here, you want to try some? Sure. Anything. It doesn't matter what sex you are. It's just you're who you are, and they know you, and it's that kind of thing. And it's just like, it doesn't matter. And sometimes I wish we were more in a world of that it wouldn't be divided between guys and girls or this. It's just you're who you are, and accept the person who they are, and based on that kind of stuff. And that's I think we're starting to get a little better at that, but I think it's still, it depends on where you are and depends on people's comfortability level.
Yeah, that's it. I think it does depend. I think it does depend on where you are, because it's like, I know the people I surround myself with, the people I've surrounded myself with are people that, you know, it's a lot of guys, a lot of girls. They don't, you know, they don't think a bit like that. And I think it's more just when you go out into the wild with people you don't know, it's people are so into the wild, but it is like the wild now, isn't it?
What's it like outside?
It feels like you're outside.
What is it like outside? We've all been in.
I don't.
It's snowing here.
Oh, is it snowing? No. Our snow's gone away now.
Yeah, it's on the way.
Here. That's what it's doing outside.
Well, maybe not for Tamsin. It might still be proper cold.
But it's fun when you learn about there's female brewers in places. It's interesting to see, and it's interesting to see. Tamar Banner was the head brewer at Brewdog USA, and then she left to she's now in the head brewer, one of the head brewers at Tool in Denmark. it was one of those things that I'm like so amazed for her. But at the same time, I was like, I asked her the question. I said, what's it like to be a female brewer? And she went, oh, I get asked that all the time because I'm a female. And I'm like, yeah, I know, but I really, as a girl, want to know what that's like, because and she was like, not quite, she was kind of taken aback by that question, because she goes like, it's just me. I'm going to be who I am, and I'm going to brew how I am, and that kind of stuff. And so it depends on the person, even the female brewers. You have the ones that are like, okay, it doesn't matter if I'm a girl or a guy. It just means that I'm just a brewer. And how
because essentially it's following a recipe, isn't it? Like how you see all the how many male chefs there are compared to female chefs. I mean, not sexist or anything. It's just really interesting to see that, you know, on TV, how many females like Mary Berry and Nigella and whatever, but in contrast to males, like it's really low. And it's just interesting.
But it's interesting you said that, though, because the people you've just named, those are like people that do more baking than actual, like, think about the level of people that do baking as compared to, like, this is like veering so off the track of like beer, but it's just the fact that you've just like pointed that out. I never would have thought about that until you've just said it out loud. A lot of the celebrity TV chefs that you see that are female, they end up being more about baking than they are like, you know, Gordon Ramsay.
Angela Harnett and people like that would never really, it did seem like it was more focused on the bakery type of things to get women involved, but just like lending it to brewing. Why aren't there more women brewers? Why is it, you know, why is that?
So women can do it until it becomes a profession, and then men can do it. That's how the world has divided things up. Like women were brewing because it was, you know, part of the sorting out the food and doing all of that, and it was part of the kitchen stuff. But once industrialization came along and it was like a profession and it was respectable, 100%. And then it's like the men took over and was like, all right. It's the same with like tailoring. Women were the sewers, women and men were sewers, women and men were embroiderers. But then when it became a profession, like a tailor, that's a man. Embroidery is something feminine that you sit and do at home.
It's light.
Essentially,
it's
a hobby is feminine,
hobby,
a profession is masculine.
Yeah, exactly. And that's how it's kind of ended up being divided up over the years. But you know, women were the first brewers because it was part of the stuff that they were doing as their part of sustaining the family and the village.
That's it. I guess there's some elements, I get that there's some elements of brewing that can make it more challenging for just the natural like female body compared to a man body, because you go, oh, I've got to lift all these things, I've got to do this, which you can do, like I can do all that, but I think that for, you know, in terms of
professionally, you should have those reasonable adjustments. You should have provisions provided for women who, like, legally you shouldn't lift more than 25 kilos anyway. So if those provisions aren't there for a man, then they shouldn't not be there for a woman anyway.
It's
totally
funny
get
that. They don't take over the chores at home.
I,
at home, I'm putting the penny on. No, let me do it. I don't know. We're sounding really sexist. I'm really, I'm not a feminist massively. But
I do have to say, when I brewed on the test kit at Brewdog, I couldn't lift. There's 30 kilo bags of malt, and you have to carry them up a staircase, and I just couldn't. And the men had to do it because I was just like, I cannot do this. So but I did the rest of it. But I just couldn't do it. And then you looked around, and actually all the guys doing all the manual stuff. I didn't see any women doing any of that kind of thing.
Well, I won't lift a 15 kilo bag of cat litter at home, so that's
I was just thinking there, when you were saying about being judged, I'll tell you another thing about being a woman. See, being a woman and taking your kids into a bar on your own, you get very judgy looks, and I don't think my husband gets the same judgy looks when he does it.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
It's very much really like what you do. Why are you bringing your kids into a pub? But it's all right for the man to go, oh, it's a boys' day out, I'm going to take my kids to the pub, and everyone's like, oh, I take my boys to the pub, and it's like, he lost. shouldn't you be somewhere else? I'm like, no, I'm having a beer. And actually they're all equity punks, so shush up.
I love that you've done that. That's brilliant.
I'm curious, Rachel, what you're going to say, because I think you made a valid point about if the provision's in place for a man, it should be in place for a female, because I know there's a lot of men that are brewers that lift bags and lift things that they shouldn't be lifting, but they choose to do it. And that was what I was kind of going to say is I appreciate that, like the overall female body's not in theory capable. I put that in brackets because I when we've moved house twice and I've moved sofas and beds and everything with my husband, whatever.
This is it. Like, legally, what's liftable for a woman is the legal requirement. So anything above that, there should be like things in place to allow it to be lifted with ease, so that you're not straining your body. And that's regardless if you're a man or a woman. In craft beer, because you're working in such a small team it's a small team with not much money to spend on those decisions. I think it is easier for a man to push the limits of his body than it is for a woman. And that
We've seen SAS where the women carry the men and the women usually
you're not wrong.
No, but I think it takes a toll quicker though, doesn't it? Because it's the fact that I can lift however many bags and I might be more physically tired than somebody else that's physically just bigger than me. I can lift it, but I'm going to hit a point where I'm going to go, oh, my body's just going to go, I can't do it in comparison to somebody else. But in theory, they're not supposed to be lifting it on their own. But as you said, it's we've got someone that can do it and is not asking for help, as opposed to somebody that might be more likely to ask for help.
I think it's a symptom of craft beer that you can abuse a man's body in that way, but a woman typically won't stand for that. And that's my experience. So.
That's a really good point.
You don't think of that.
They're told to man up. Rather than be like, oh, okay, you can't lift that, so we'll figure out how to make it easier.
That's interesting you said that, actually, because you're right. It is the detriment to the guys that work in it is very much man up, get over it. With you, they'd go, oh, Rachel, let's help you.
Push yourself, it'll be okay.
Whereas I, in the same way that I also don't want to see people going, I'm hiring a female brewer just because they're a female. Like, I want somebody, I don't want a job because I'm a female. Like, for me personally, I want a job because I'm really good. Like, I'm really good at what I'm doing and I happen to be a female. And I don't, for me, if I'm saying like, I want to do this activity, I want to push myself and do this, I don't want someone to say to me, oh, don't hurt yourself, sit down, like you're very I want to be like, no, I move sofas, I move beds, I can move a bag.
For me, like, my first couple of months experience was me like proving I can do this. I don't need your help. If I want your help, I'll ask. And that was something that I think I had that luxury to be like, I don't need your help until I ask. Whereas men, they struggle to ask for that help.
It's the vulnerability of like, I need some help on this. Could you help me? Like, they would just go like, oh, but if I ask for help, are you just going to take the piss out of me and call me whatever you're going to call me? Or just, with us, we don't have to necessarily worry about asking for the help, because it's almost, I kind of feel like in some aspects, there's almost kind of an assumption that we're going to ask for help at some point.
As well, it's
the same.
It's frustrating in a way to constantly feel like you're being watched, waiting for you to ask for that help when you don't need it.
Or babied, like babied, but like putting you like in a, wrapping you up in bubble wrap and being like, oh, you're very delicate. I don't want to. It's like, I'm not delicate. You can take the piss out of me like you can with guys. You can. Do whatever you're going to do with them. With me, I don't care.
As well, that flows back into the like halves versus pints and ABVs. It all comes back to like, I can take what you can take. In a way, like, I
know when I can. I know when I'm at a point when I'm like, I'm done. I don't need more.
That's it.
And I think we're getting better. I think people are getting better at that. They're starting to, but I think that's the part that they see the exterior of a person. It doesn't matter if you're a guy or a girl.
Yeah.
If they see a smaller guy, they'll assume that they can't lift it.
Yeah.
It's the same kind of thing. I mean, it's like that kind of, that's the part that I wish that we wouldn't be in any industry, wouldn't be having that same situation. I wish they would just see us and actually ask us and say, okay, because I think we're getting better as people saying what we want. Expressing our needs, whether it's we need help or we not need help. I mean, most of us can't. I mean, I'm a female who they automatically assume that I'm going to ask for help, but I'm one who literally is independent out the wazoo. And if it's wanting help, nope, I will do it on my own until I get stuck, and then I'll be like, oh yeah, I have to ask for help. Oh shoot, I don't want to ask for help. But that kind of thing, because that's just how I was raised, and that's how I am as a person. And I think that's how each of us as individuals, guys or girls or individuals are individuals, and I think that's part of it. We have to stop judging people based on exterior and find out who the people are. And I think that's as a beer community, craft beer does better with that. And some of the places do better when they don't automatically make an assumption of who you are.
Yeah.
I think that's the part that across the board we're getting better at. And I think that's the one good thing I've experienced with Brewdog is that, you walk up, it gives you an opportunity. It doesn't matter if you're a guy or a girl. They actually say, okay, what are you interested in? Can I help you? Can I figure out how to what do you want to try? What are your like? It's that conversation. And sometimes that's the conversation where people automatically go, some people don't want that conversation.
Yeah.
There's other people who are real shy and don't want that conversation. They want to pick what they want. But then there's other times it's like, I, as a conversationalist, want to engage in that conversation just a little bit so that I can go, okay, well, I don't know any of these beers. You tell me what they're like. And that's the part that's sometimes hard. But I think that's where we as people sometimes need to get out of our own comfort zones too. We're so stuck in those comfort zones, whether we're guys or girls, realizing, okay, even in the beer industry, like when I talked to Tamara, she's like, I was who I am. It doesn't matter if I'm a girl or a guy. It just means that I need to be more of me. And that's the part that I think is something that we're as a community of people, we're getting a little better at that, but it's still trying to realize that I'm important just as much as the person standing next to me. It doesn't matter who that person is.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm going to have to disagree. Oh, I was going to say I was going to have to disagree with you, Tori.
Go on.
I'll take every advantage going. You want a diversity hire? Take me. You want to pick a woman over a man? I'm up for it. Honest to God, right? Maybe because I'm older and like grayer than everyone else, but I'm just like, I will take every advantage going. I don't care.
I think my thing is though,
if you want me because I've got boobs, fine. I will take that pay rise. I will take it all. Just do it.
I love that. I think for me, it's like I want it to be a place where for me, I think it's like you're saying, like, we don't have enough females here, and it shouldn't, from my perspective only, I don't want it to be a place of like, I'm hiring you because I want to hire a female and it doesn't matter. For me, I want it to be like, we want to create a more diverse environment, so let's do that by encouraging more women to go for this role, by shaping the way that we deal with the workplace, so that maybe it is a case of you're not getting a lot of females that are applying for the role because the way the environment is, it's not very encouraging for women to go for that role. For me, I want it to be a place of maybe more females will go for this role and you'll have more females to choose from because you've shaped the way your company works and you've shaped the mindset and you've made it more of a friendly environment where women feel like they can go for this powerful role or a higher up role or whatever the role is that maybe they didn't feel. You know, I work in telecoms and IT, and that's quite a male dominated environment. Joe understands, like, it's quite a male dominated environment, and it's very like, you know, sometimes you need to tell engineer types how to behave around other people that are not engineer types. And it's the creating the environment where me as a female goes, I want to progress here, I feel comfortable to progress here, and now you have more candidates that are female naturally, instead of just going, I need to fill a box because I don't have enough females, so let's go with you. and it doesn't really matter what your qualifications are. I just need to get someone in the door. It's kind of like, let's encourage the natural progression of it by just changing the environment. And I guess that's kind of where I'm coming from. But I also appreciate that.
I was making a joke. I was making a joke about it, but I just think, and that's that earlier point of unconscious bias. There is so much unconscious bias against women. If you're offered an opportunity, don't question too much how you got the opportunity. Just grab it, is what I'm saying.
No, I totally agree with that as well. It's just the case of, I guess, for me, it's also the case of like, I don't want you to just go, oh, we don't have enough women here. So our solution to that is to just go, who's the closest women we can hire? Like, I want them to go, we're not getting enough women here. Why? I'm thinking an ideal world when they're going, we're not getting enough women applying for this role, or enough diversity. We're not getting enough people of color. We're not getting enough, different gender, sexual orientations, all that. Maybe they need to step exactly. Maybe they need to step back and question, well, what might be putting those people off from applying? Do we do something that might not be inviting to that environment, the male dominated environment? And maybe they need to make changes in that space.
I think as well that contributes to, if that workplace was more suited, there wouldn't be as much sort of imposter syndrome in those people who aren't seen, if that makes
I get what you're saying.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I agree, Tori, because around the craft breweries that are around us, just here in Ohio, there are some that are mostly like, that's all you see are males behind the bar, like on their social media page. But then there's also the breweries that are, empowering women in showcasing their skills via social media. You're seeing them actually behind the bar, giving their input of, when you're asking them, well, what do you recommend? So that's one of the nice things that we're seeing.
That's really interesting, actually, because if I've worked in the hospitality business all my life, and I run pubs and wine bars and that for years and stuff, and years ago, all behind the bar used to be just women, right? Just women. And I thank God we've come from that, because it was eye candy.
Agreed.
Interesting to see that in the majority of craft beer bars you go in, it is all men. It's almost like women haven't got the kind of knowledge to be in charge. It is very male dominated. We go to lots and lots of different breweries and bars and stuff, and the majority is men. It's men.
It's interesting you say it, because I think I've noticed like a diversity where it's in craft beer, it feels a bit more level playing field between men and women. In not craft beer, just normal bars and everything else. In the US, I found it's funny, because having experience in both, in the US I found very non-craft world, it was very female dominated, and I think that all comes down to the tipping system. As much as I don't want to make this statement, I think it does sort of come down to the tipping system and the way that it favors sort of females in that aspect. And over here I found it to be very male dominated, and I don't really know sort of why that difference is, but
it's the knowledge of beer. I think they think, oh no, let's put, I don't know, maybe I'm completely wrong, but that's the impression that I get.
If a man, like a male co-worker, made a recommendation, that would be taken as gospel. If I make that recommendation, maybe I take it with a pinch of salt. Both doing the same job, but the man is seen as unconsciously.
I mean, there are women, because I've had some great experiences. I'm not just, there have been some who've really known their stuff, who've just gone through the whole board and recommended everything and really knew their stuff. But in general, I find it to be male.
Yeah.
But I have seen a change. Like, I've seen a change in the last, I don't know, year, 2 years, where it's got, and I think it comes down to kind of why Joe started a beer school and everything else. Like, women tend to, on the whole, and I can't generalize, I can only speak for people I know and the experience I've heard about, there's a lot of females, as you said, Lisa, that are just like, I don't feel confident. Whereas males will come in and they'll tell you their opinion. They won't think twice about it. And they'll just go, I don't, you can take my opinion or you can leave my opinion. Whereas like women tend to end up being like, oh, what if I give the wrong opinion? And what if and it's like, well, your opinion can't be wrong. So, but I think we're just a bit more concerned about giving something that's going to be like the wrong opinion. But I've seen that change quite a bit over the last maybe year or 2 years, where it's sort of started to level out a bit. It's still, I wouldn't say it's fully equal still, but I would say that I think that there's a lot more females who feel comfortable sort of stating their opinion.
Definitely. Bar managers are the ones where I can't recall seeing a lot of females at the position of bar management. They might work behind, and be a server, but I don't know about them.
I wonder if that comes down to the
dog.
I'm wondering if that comes down to a level of like the people management, though, if they naturally gravitate towards sort of men doing that job, because like men will be like, you're doing this and you're doing this and you're doing this, and they think that females might not have that same dominance, if that makes sense.
It comes down to that, like when a woman tells you what to do, she's bossy. When a man, it's like
Brew do seem to be more open though than most.
I think they are.
Bars, like you said, when you walk into any brew, you do not feel out of place at all.
No.
And that's really nice. And they do get slated, but I think that's one of the things that they open the door. Like I came from Brewdog, from Trying Punk like 6 years ago.
I think so many people did.
Yeah.
And like, they're not, maybe their beers aren't that exciting at the moment and, blah, blah, blah. But they've built a community that is open to people, and you see
accessible.
Yeah, it's accessible, and you see a variety of people in roles. And I think that's really important. And I think as well, with some of these women going into roles, it's that whole, a man will go, oh, I can do that one thing out of that list, I'm going to apply for it. But a woman's like, I can't do that one thing on that list, so I'm not going to apply because I'm not qualified. It's about.
There was a video all about that. Yeah. Maybe we've seen the same videos, but there was a whole thing about that.
Yeah, I've lived that video, so like, I've lived
the things that I haven't applied for.
I've reported back in a previous role, not my company now or anything like that, but in previous jobs, when you do your like self-appraisal at the end of the year, speaking to a line manager once, and my line manager was just like, it's so funny because she's noticed that when men give their self-appraisal, they give much higher ratings than maybe what she as a manager would give them. And women tend to give themselves a lot lower ratings than what she would give them. So it's just funny because she's like, I'm always going to have the guys that are overrating themselves and the women that are undervaluing themselves. That's funny.
There's that statistic that says, I can't remember the exact figures, but a man will apply for a job if he's 30% capable, and a woman would only do it if she's like 80.
Absolutely. It's our imposter syndrome. And like, tarring everybody with the same brush here, but I'm sure there are women who are like, nope, I'm going to go for that. But a lot of us have that imposter syndrome. We're like, oh no, if I do that, and we've got to push through it. Push through it.
I think a lot of it has to do with like just experience too, because if you're new to the field or with anything, then like, because I remember switching from my career, or it's the same career but different job, and I didn't have any experience into it, but I went in saying, this is what I know, this is what I don't know, but I'm willing to learn on what I don't know. But that was after 10 years of experience in my career, so I think that has a huge role in it.
Oh, I feel like I get imposter syndrome all the time. Like Joe all the time has to be like, you know what you're talking about, just shut up. Because I'm constantly like, I think that it's like that. Like I think this is right, and then I'm like, I'll message her after, like, oh, I hope I just didn't balls that all up, and she's like, you're fine,
you're right.
Fine.
And I literally took, like, I don't work at, well, I mean, technically I do work in the beer industry now, but I didn't work in the beer industry, and I was like, I'm going to take the Cicerone certified beer server exam, because I want to prove that I know what I'm talking about. I know what I'm talking about. Like, I talk about beer all the time. I wanted that little certificate that's over there.
The license to say, I know what I'm talking about.
I know what I'm talking about. And I need that bit of paper. Like, how many, like, and then
exactly.
you get the men that pop up on the beer groups and are just like,
Yeah.
Takes like sage and wood smoke, and then the next thing you hear, they're like, "This was the first craft beer I ever had. What else should I buy?" And I was like, "You just described it as sage and wood smoke. Like, what? What gave you the balls to say that? Because I wouldn't have done."
Women need that certificate. They need that paper before
Right.
they say,
Like,
I
I am
believe
qualified.
this.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
I don't know if you guys saw. Sorry.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I don't know if you guys saw the study after when we had the financial crash, and they were talking about the amount of men and the amount of women that were stockbrokers, and they were saying, why can't we keep women in that role as stockbrokers and account managers in that way? And they were saying the difference was that if you talk to a guy, like 70% of his accounts have made a profit, he thought, brilliant, that's more than half, I'm doing really well. Then you talk to the women and they say, if 95% of their accounts are good and 5% are bad, they're sitting there going, oh my God, 5% of my accounts have lost money. I can't live with myself.
Right.
I feel personally attacked right now. Literally, I feel like all I do is be like, that one thing that I did wrong. Oh my God.
Right.
And then everyone's like, you're fine. And I was like, I'm having a mental breakdown. What do I do?
Yeah, we tend to overreact so much, and that's part of it. It's like they think, but sometimes the overreaction is okay. And that's the part that as females, it's okay to actually overreact in any industry.
Yeah.
In the beer, it's okay to be really passionate about something. It doesn't matter. There's sometimes that's one of the things that I realized, Joe, you've encouraged me at times, because I realize and go, yes, I have an opinion, and sometimes some people don't want to hear it. Other times they do. And it's like, it depends on who it is. And it depends. It's one of those things. And as women, we're taught that it's better to be demure. It's better to be quiet. It's better to not be this, and don't be the big presence. And I'm going, that's putting me basically in this little tiny box and making you say and go, okay, I'm never allowed to come out, and I'm never allowed to give my opinion. And and for in our situation, Wes for a long time loved beer, but because I didn't like it, and I was so used to what crap I had, and I didn't want to try it, and it was like that whole like. But I realized that as I've grown older, sometimes Tamsin, you're right. It's one of those things that as I've aged, you're right. It changes you. It changes you to appreciate life much more and realize and go, oh yeah, what I learned 25 years ago when I first got married was ridiculous. I would not have been the same person back then as I am now. And I realized that I appreciate myself so much more. And sometimes that's harder for men to admit that, because they realize and go, it's time. It makes it worse. And sometimes I think we as people need to be more kind to ourselves, first of all, and realize that our opinion matters, and that sometimes we have to stop being so harsh on ourselves. And even in beer, to realize and go, if I don't like a beer, it's okay that I don't like a beer.
Or if you like something that everyone's telling you shouldn't like, it's okay if you like something that everyone else doesn't like.
Like, I don't like people who are just like, you shouldn't like this brewery, and you shouldn't like this, and you shouldn't like that. No. Everybody drink what they want. I don't care if you're going to go out and drink Budweiser. Cool. Drink what you enjoy. Like, don't post it on the craft beer forums.
Don't post it on craft beer forums, because you will get, unless you want to get slated.
But if you want to drink, if you want to go and drink a cheeky Budweiser, go for it. Like, drink what you enjoy, because at the end of the day, it's beer.
I love the fact you called it a cheeky Budweiser.
I mean, you won't be catching me drinking that non-tasting stuff.
But politely. I hate sours, and Joe does not hold it against me, even though
I'm like, you send me your sours, girl, I'll drink them.
And it's like one of those things, you either love them or you hate them. Like,
exactly.
It's okay.
There's no right or wrong. An opinion isn't right or wrong. Like, that's the thing. An opinion isn't right or wrong. But I think, like, ultimately, it kind of goes in with exactly what you were saying, Carrie. It's like, for me, I think it's not, like, I don't feel overall that I think men make me feel a particular way or women make me feel a particular way. I make me feel a particular way, in that I feel that I put a lot of pressure on myself, and you know, to be like, you know, a guy's not sitting there telling me you should or shouldn't voice your opinion. It's me going, oh my God, what are people going to think if I say the wrong thing, or what is going to happen if I do the wrong thing? And I think I put a lot of pressure on me.
Pull you up if you do say the wrong thing.
Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah.
On the forum, if you say something, when I first started kind of voicing my opinion, and I said a few things that, oh, that's a bit of a supermarket beer.
Oh God.
And I was like, just going, and that's actually when I started Love Beer Learning, to give me the confidence to go, hang on a minute.
That's why
This is not a paid for. This is not a paid for
why I
ad.
started it, because I was like, women need that confidence. You
No,
know
you need
what
to
you
like
are talking
let
about.
people know this is not a paid for
No,
advert.
this is not paid for advert. I haven't slipped Lisa either.
I have to say, on the brewing forum, everyone was pretty supportive. No one made you feel like that, and it's just
really
interesting. Yeah, that it's a
Just don't go onto Reddit.
That's what we call armchair quarterbacks, where they just sit there and they think they know it all, but they don't know anything.
So there's one the other day where this guy asked, he's fairly new to craft beer, and he was just like, right, I want to buy some beers, and I want to buy I want to know what everyone in this forum's favorite beer is. Tell me what your favorite beer is. I want to buy some like top-notch beers. And like some people were just like, oh, this is my favorite brewery, these are the favorite ones I've had recently. And I was like, right, what's my favorite beer that I would recommend to somebody else? And I was like, do you know what? Go and try Wild Beer Co.'s Millionaire. I was like, it is an excellent. I was like, it's a sweet stout, and it is very sweet. Be prepared for that. And he's like, no, this sounds like it's right up my street. Some man then commented on the thing. Oh, it's cheap though. Right. I was just like, so I started writing this message that was, I like it. And I was like, and I started writing this message that was, the question wasn't, what's your most expensive beer? It was, what's your favorite beer? Right. And I was like, you know what, that's a bit too harsh. So I deleted that. And instead I wrote a very, placid, well, beer doesn't need to be expensive to be good. Yeah. Like they can, like some of the cheap, like that's just an added bonus that it is therefore an affordable beer. And I just got a reply, well, I didn't say it was a bad beer, I just said that it was a cheap one. And I was just like,
also
it wasn't a criticism.
Well, it's not that, depending on where you look at it, it's not that, like, compared to a Cloudwater beer it's cheap, but compared to your £2 sweetheart stout, no,
exactly.
This is all relative, but that was not the question. So why are you pulling me up? Because this is Millionaire is now one of their core beers, and you can get it more cheaply than a lot of other beers. That wasn't the question. The question was, what's your favourite beer?
That's what I now know to be about that forum. Is that there are a lot of people on there that are
and it puts people off.
I left that forum.
I've left so many. I've left so many beer forums. Well, this was what annoyed me, because it was the nice. So Craft Beer UK is the one that Tori and I met in, and it was that one, and that's a really nice beer forum. But it's got,
and the guy that posted it was the guy that's posted. Really nice
guy, really nice guy who's asking really for it, and it was just like really nice guy, and he was like, oh, I've heard that one a couple of times, I'm gonna go get it, and he's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go get all these beers. And it's just like this rando was just like, that's a cheap beer, I like it.
When I was on it was a woman had said something, and then a couple of guys had sort of commented, and then all these other women were just really and then they quietened down, and it's just like, it's fascinating.
So we shouldn't need to do that. We shouldn't need to pile in for our beer sisters.
No, but I will though. Helen, who's not here, like me and her are constantly just like, she'll be like, someone's just said this to me. I'm like, where have they said that to you? And then she'll be like, I've stood up for you here. I'm like, thanks.
I get some really random comments, and I'm like, okay, great.
I gotta say, so relating to beer, there's a certain Facebook group that I actually left because I felt it was getting quite toxic and masculine.
I think they do.
And it's a shame, because it's kind of ruined that whole thing for me that I could have got a lot of stuff out of, I think. And I'm not going to say what it is, but people probably realize. But I've left it, and do you know what? I'm happy with my decision.
Yeah,
I think it's fine.
I think that's
I've unfriended people. I've unfriended people. I've left groups that I just feel less than comfortable in. And that's the thing, is I'm not saying like you can't carry on being that way or making those comments or doing those things. But for me, like I Maria Kondo'd that, Like I was like, is it bringing me joy? Is this person bringing me joy? Like
in your life.
Exactly.
that negativity
I
in
was
my
on
life.
my
Bye-bye.
I was on my RuPaul vibes. Like I was like, girl, no. Like,
Girl,
I was
bye.
like, you don't need
I am
that.
sashaying away.
Yeah,
Bye.
Maria Kondo sashayed away from that because I was like, I don't need it, and I feel so much less like
I want to be in a community that has that vibe on you. No thanks.
Exactly.
So
I will not tolerate that in women's pint club, people.
So the one thing I will say though is like there are some groups that actually like I will say like there has been, and I can't just say like all got like tarnish all men with the same, but anything like that, because like I've found that there's so many guys that have actually like I've had people make sexist comments towards me and say like quite rude things to me on some of these forums, and there has been so many guys on certain forums that have just jumped in and have been like absolutely not, that's not happening, that's not flying, you're out, like kicking people out of groups, standing up for me, helping to support me, and just being like a proper ally and being like what was just said wasn't cool. So I don't want any of this conversation to be taken out of context in a way that I am like bashing guys at all, because it's not that at all. And the majority of men that I know that I interact with are like so supportive and everything like that. And that's been helpful. But the one thing that I had a good conversation with my husband about, which is quite why I love like Women's Pint Club, is I said, I think sometimes it comes down to like a fundamental difference in the, you know, again, broad strokes, and it's not hard and fast rule, but just in the different ways that men and women think. And I think like sometimes the majority of men can think of it's a black or it's white. There's no in the middle. You're right or you're wrong. You're on my side, you're on the other side. And I think with women, we have this ability to go, there's black, there's white, and then there's a whole gray area, and we can sit there and have a conversation, and it's not personal, it's not an insult, we can disagree with each other, we can agree with each other, and we can just go, oh, that was a really good we can play devil's advocate, and no one's taking things personally. We're like, that was a really good discussion, I feel we've just had a really good intelligent discussion. And when I try to do the same with some guys in other groups, like I've been met with like sort of like I was being aggressive by asking a question or challenging their viewpoint, and I just don't get that same thing in women's pint clubs. Like I really love Women's Pint Club because we can have those debates with each other and we can discuss things with each other, and you know, it doesn't turn into, I can't believe you just said that, like that's it, I've written you off or anything, or it doesn't turn nasty. It's just like okay, I've just taken something away, I've learned something.
Because I do think it's because we're not competitive we're not competing. We're a group of, you know, we want to share our experiences and we've got common ground and we're not competing. So if you were to say, Tori, oh, I really love this sour that I had, I'm not going to challenge you, or I'm just going to go, well, you know, that's, you know.
But you could say to me, I had that sour and I didn't get that at all. I got this and this, and I got, oh, that's really interesting. Yeah. Like, oh, tell me more about that. And I feel like if you were to do that in a different type of setting, you'd get people that are like, well, you're wrong. Right. And it's like, well, no, what you're tasting isn't wrong.
Is it just a type of a person? Because, you know, I've got a couple of my my best friends, their husbands really like craft beer. And when I went down to deliver some of my home brew to them at Christmas, I bottled it all up and bagged it all up, and they thought it was fantastic. But I'm talking to them in a really knowledgeable way now because I've submerged myself into this great group, and from plug it, love beer learning.
Not a paid advert.
Not a paid advert. God, you really, I left feeling really good because Quincy and Daniel were like, wow, you're so passionate about this and you really know your stuff, because I'd started brewing and, you know, explaining it, and they're like, wow, like, and they're really listening to me. And these are two guys that really like craft beer, and they're really nice guys. It's like you were saying earlier, Tori, you know, you surround yourself with those sort of types of people that aren't sort of like, oh, there's a bird drinking a pint.
Yeah,
right. They're more educated in that sense, if you know what I mean. But yeah, I think it's of that general type of person that is.
I totally agree, and I think it's just a case of as well of when you present yourself in a knowledgeable way as well. I think sometimes it comes down to anonymity as much as, you know, if you're talking to a person that you know firsthand and you've gotten to know these people are going to take your opinion, you know, people you don't know on the internet, they're just going to start going, you know, well, that's wrong, that's shit, because they're not thinking of you as a real person that has real ideas and real information. They're just like, that's an easy target, I'm just going to go for that.
Behind a keyboard and behind the screen, it's not the same.
That is exactly the conversation I had with my husband the other day, and I said, see, if I go and meet one of my girlfriends, I'm like, oh my god, your hair is looking amazing. I was like, you go and meet one of your friends, you're like, wow, your ass is looking fat. Like but they don't mean it to be like nasty. It's just that's the language that they use to talk to each other. Whereas I think women are naturally more kind of supportive, and again, not everyone, but you know, I think we tend to big each other up more, whereas men are like putting each other down, but in an affectionate way. And it's just the way it comes across.
I definitely have friends that I definitely put down with. We definitely like have that communication with, where I'm just like, hey, B word, I'm trying not to swear so that Joe doesn't beat me.
Too late. I'm not even going to bother beeping this episode.
I'll be like, hey, you big old B word.
Sorry, I don't know like language.
No, it's fine.
No, it's normally me, it's not you.
No, it's Tori.
Yeah, sometimes it depends how you present yourself too. Sometimes there's girls that you hang out with that are literally bitchy. There are ones that it doesn't matter how nice you are; they're just that's how they are, and that's just how.
I bet they don't drink wines.
I bet they don't drink wine.
I've tended to shy away from girl groups. It's all been about gossip and all that kind of crap, and I'm like, I don't want to deal with that. I don't mind you asking me if you care about that person, but if you just want to know what they're doing and all that I think part of it is you start to meet and start to actually be your true self. And I think that's part of it is like we have such a mask that we put on and say, okay, here's who we are. And if in certain situations, if you get to your point where you can actually take that mask off and actually say, here's who I am, here's who I am as a girl, here's who I am as a guy, it's you're more comfortable with who you are.
But yeah, I think that's the thing though, is I think it like you were saying, Tams, it is very much like when you're talking online, there's the anonymity and stuff. It can be just so different, and I think tone is different as well online, as you know. It's always great when you have like when you know that there's other guys that have your back as well, because you're like, okay, cool, that validates me. I feel validated. I feel like I'm not just over, you know, exaggerating something or whatever. When somebody else has my back and I don't even have to say anything and they're like, that wasn't cool, I'm like, thank you, I didn't even have to say that. That's brilliant.
It's almost like there's some keyboard warriors just waiting just waiting for someone to just slip up. They can go, oh, I know, I can make myself feel big here.
And that's why I've taken the opportunity to just Maria Kondo them the crap from my life. Like I am like, I see that someone responds like negatively to me and I'm like, cool.
That unfriend button is there, and that leave button is there for a reason.
Unfriend them, leave them. Someone
no.
Comment, you don't have to rise to that.
Mute but stay friends. Then they don't know.
Ignore. Then you can still stalk them and they can't stalk you.
All right, ladies, it's been absolutely lovely speaking to you.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, we are welcome. And if anybody else would like to join us in Women's Pint Club, you can go to Facebook and just search Women's Pint Club. We have a regular monthly virtual pub where we do this sort of thing and we have a good old chat and we talk about random films and beers and and all sorts. It is delightful. Pampas grass. Excellent things.
Beer snacks.
Rubber ducks. There's lots of
various
stuff
things. And thank you, ladies. Have a lovely evening.
Wednesday.
Off to bed now. Kids will be up soon.
So that was our little chat. I think it went really well. I had to edit it a lot. It went really long. We talked for like 2 hours. We had a lot to say.
I think sometimes it veered off as usual. We're like, well, this isn't even us anymore. It's not even us anymore. It was just like veer off into like, oh, so speaking about wine, let's talk about wine and like barrel aged wine and all that. But I mean, I think there were so many like valid points made on both sides of the fence. And there were some things that I found really interesting from that conversation of pointing out of like, well, if we look at it, you know, this is our experience as women, but here's what men must also struggle with on their side of things, with the whole like needing to be masculine side of things. And that was something I don't think I ever stopped to really think about before. So it was just really quite interesting to also think on that and some of the points other people made. And yeah, it was a really good time and lots of good. But I tried to drink exclusively sort of female orientated beers. I went thematic. So yeah. So yeah, that was hopefully other people like it and found it as interesting as I think we did.
Yeah. So if people want to ask you when International Men's Day is, Tori, where can they find you?
So if they want me to tell them it's the 19th of November, they can find me on adventures_in_hoptimism on Instagram. And where can people find you if they want to know about your brews?
If you want to know about my brewing, if you want to know what beers I'm drinking for International Women's Day, I am a woman's brew on Instagram, Facebook and Twitter. If you want to come and learn from a woman in beer, that's me. You can come to my beer school, which is Love Beer Learning. We are Love Beer Learning on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. We also have our website, which is lovebeerlearning.co.uk, and you can also email us lovebeerlearning@gmail.com. We'll pick up emails for the podcast there as well, so tell us what other things you want us to talk about on the podcast here. If there's any breweries you want us to get in contact with, let us know and we can do an episode for you. So on that note, cheers.